Hello there, and thank you for tuning in to episode 42 of Your Ghost Stories. I'm very grateful to be joined by the wonderful Phil Marsh today. He's a fellow musician and incredibly talented vocalist. Phil reached out to me on social media to let me know that he has a few stories he's willing to share with us. So I jumped at the chance to get him on. So, on that note, I'd like to give you a very warm welcome, my friend.
Cheers, brother. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, total pleasure, man. So, how's your week going? Managed to squeeze in a few pancakes before this call, or?
No, that's the thing, right? I've never liked pancakes, mate.
Oh,
Me and my
dude.
daughter, we did it last year, the whole flipping thing. But I said to my daughter Peaches, I was like, "Do you want to do some pancakes?" And she was like, "Dad, I'm not really feeling it today." I was like, "Yeah, yeah,
What kid
same."
doesn't want pancakes?
Mate, like she's like, "No, I'm not really vibing it, Dad." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I was like, "What do you want?" So we had something else, but yeah, mate, I've never been into pancakes. Maybe that's why the fates always dish me loads of bad luck in relation to paranormal stuff because I don't like pancakes. That's what it is.
I'd say so, yeah. I mean, I had made some as well, but they were totally battered, no pun intended, and they all came out all crimpled and crumpled and burnt. So that didn't go down too well for
Best
me
part is the
either.
flip. The best part is the flip. Once you flipped them, I don't care anymore. I'm like, oh, I've done that now. I don't really want to
Yeah.
eat it.
So yeah, thanks so much for coming on the show, dude. I'm so keen to hear all about your encounters. But before we dive into a few of your stories, please feel free to tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so as you know, Jamie's a friend, so he refers to me as Phil, but my artist name's Pip Marsh. I am about to launch some very exciting music. So if you're an elder emo and you're branching out and you like a bit of country, you're gonna be into what I'm doing. Think Jelly Roll, Hardy meets Dashboard Confessional, Taking Back Sunday. So, but an English version. I don't do the fake American accent, right? Hats off to people that do that, but that is not my vibe. So I'm flying the flag for the UK. The Brits are coming. The Brits are coming to Nashville. Let's go. So yeah, so I'm a singer, I'm a father, and I love paranormal stuff. It freaks me out on whole other levels, but it's kind of like that naughty thing you know is bad for you, but you keep going for it because you want to keep testing how far you can push it. So yeah, so to be on this, it's a pleasure. So I've got some music coming out in the next few months. My social media is just at Pip Marsh, or the Pip Marsh is at the Pip Marsh. So yeah, that's me. That's me.
Nice. Well, I've known you. Well, we've never actually met, but I've known you over the internet for what, probably 4 years
a,
now, man.
a long time, man. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, right? I think with social media now, like I know that when we eventually do hang IRL, it'd be like we've known each other in real life for years because that's just the vibe, and you just connect with some people. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, man, I'm excited to eventually do that, dude. That's gonna be great.
Yeah, me too, dude. So, what initially sparked your interest in the paranormal and how has it evolved over time? So, by the sounds of it, you'd call yourself a firm believer.
Definitely, man. I mean, for me, it all started when I was a kid. So I grew up in a little town called Newport in Shropshire, um, in the little village in Newport called Church Aston. Now, it's in the Shire, so it's old. Shropshire's a very old place. There's a lot of history with Shropshire, and we have a very famous ghost. I say very famous ghost, but if you're into paranormal and ghosts and urban legends around England and stuff and Shropshire, you would have heard of it. Like we have things like Ipperkin's Rock, um, but we also have something called the Tale of Madam Piggot. Now, Madam Piggot, basically the story of Madam Piggot is she was a wife to Sir Mr. Piggot, who lived in Chetwynd, which is basically a part of Newport. It's at the top end of the town. And it's kind of as you start to go out towards the main road that used to be the only road into Chester. Now, Mr. Pigott, or Master Pigott as he was known, was a businessman, was away a lot, and he had this wife. Now, the story goes that she was in childbirth and she the doctor could only save the child or Madam Pigott. And I think that Master Pigott said something like, what was it? Chop the root to save the branch or something like that, right? Anyway, he decided the kid should be to live, basically. So she died. So what happened was, not long after, there was a story from the nanny that the nanny was found with the baby dead in her arms. Now the story goes that the nanny said she saw Madam Pigott in like an apparition and strangle the baby. Now, obviously, none of this was believed, and the nanny was hung for murder. But what was said to believe, like folklore, that it was actually Madam Pigott. She'd come back, she couldn't be without her child, so she took the child into spirit. So, obviously, it was all that kind of happened. It was all about the nanny. But as years and years went on, people started to experience things on that stretch of road by Cheney Hill, which is a part of the deer park in Chetwynd. And over the years, there were things like people would be driving their cars down this bit of road and they'd run out of diesel or petrol, or the electric would go, even if they had a full tank or a full charge. It still happens today. And my dad, back in the day, was he was a bit of a cowboy. He was a bit of a joker. Like he used to like fuck about with ghost hunters and stuff down there. Like, so him and his mates would hide in the woods while the ghost hunters was out, and then they'd all run out banging sticks and shit everyone up. Anyway, my dad left home at 15, and he was quite obviously poor, no parents. So my dad had ways of making money, and he used to hunt. So in Chetwynd, there's a deer park, right? And you drive past now, you can still see deers, but it was very famous for the stag. It had a stag, a very big stag. Now my dad killed that stag. They're protected, but my dad, we're talking like back in like the 60s, 70s. My dad killed that stag, and he told me the story. He shot it with his shotgun, and he jumped that high in the air. He had to use a hammer to bring it down. And then what my dad did, he sold the meat to a local dentist. And it was all in the papers, like who killed the stag. Hence why I've got this stag tattoo. It's one of the notes, right? So that happened. And I don't know if my dad had done something that day. So my dad was, like I say, he was very adventurous. And like my dad was the kind of guy that would go to the pub, right? And he'd get so shit-faced, he'd take a horse so he could ride the horse back and not get done for drink driving. Like, this is the kind of guy he was. So one night he'd slept in the churchyard in Chetwynd, which is at the end of the top end of the town. And he was like, I need to walk back into town. So he was walking back into, you go through Chetwynd to get to Newport, and it's literally really thin road. There's a big wall on the side, and the deer park is here, right? My dad said he was walking down and he saw a stag. He was like, that's weird. I didn't know there was another stag in there. Carried on walking forward. That then turned into a horse. Now, my dad always went on about this horse because Madam Pigott's family were famous to having this big Shire horse. Dad got closer. It turned into a woman pushing a pram. As he got closer, it was two little kids, all dressed in white, laughing at him. Just sat on the corner. They were pale, all dressed in white. I get shivers thinking about it. Like, and my dad just bolted. Didn't know what it was. It was something to do with Madam Pigott. And then the funny thing is, my uncle, my dad's brother, they never spoke. They hated each other. They never spoke. But my uncle experienced the exact same thing, literally a year apart. And the only reason we know he saw the same thing as my dad is because a mutual friend had said. So from that day, that was quite a famous thing in our house. Like, my dad's like, oh, you know, I've seen her. I've seen Madam Pigott. So I always used to kind of push myself to go up there with friends and try and find stuff. But I will still not drive down that part of road at night time. I'll always go the long way around. I won't do it because I think my dad killing that stag has upset something. I mean, the how bad this Madam Pigott spirit is, if you look at on the internet of it, she was exorcised and buried under a tree root in a bottle. Like that's, and like I say, Shropshire's really famous. We had the Knights of Templar, we had all that kind of stuff. So it's really rich in kind of urban legend and folklore. So yeah, that was what kind of originally got me on to the paranormal. That was my kind of entry level test kind of thing.
Wow,
Weird.
man. I think you got a little bit further than entry level there. I mean, most people are just like, oh, I saw a little like ghost sitting on the end of my bed. But no, that's that's crazy stuff, man. So yeah, that's one way to kick off the show. You're well clued up on the history of your area, which is awesome. Absolutely love that. And I've got to be honest with you, dude, I haven't actually heard those stories before. Maybe I have, and I just don't remember the name or location. But anyway, thanks for sharing those. I'll have to dig into those deeper.
Yeah.
Your dad sounds like he'll have a million and one crazy stories to tell, dude. Um, in your opinion, what do you think happened? Why do you think your dad and uncle experienced the exact same thing? Obviously, your uncle didn't kill a stag as well. Do you
No,
think that
exactly.
there is some kind of supernatural connection there, or
Well,
do you
my
think?
family, I don't know if it's something to do with my family, because my family, I mean, I've done the whole ancestry thing best I can, and we've always been Salopians, as in Shropshire people. And my relations were like some of the biggest farmers back in the day. So we had like they were that rich that we had servants and all that kind of stuff. Like fuck knows what happens, mate. Happened, mate. Like because, but yeah. So I don't know if there's maybe some kind of rich history between family or what. I don't know, but I just find it odd that both my dad and my uncle, who hate each other, have both experienced things. And I'm very big on energy, man. Like energy's a big thing for me. Like whether I'm meeting someone or, you know, walking out somewhere and I see and I'm in an environment, like I'll pick up on the energy. So even for me, walking down there, like when we used to, like every year they have a thing called Newport Show, and it's part of the show goes on to the deer near the deer park. I always feel really, really weird walking on there, and I can't. I don't know why, and I don't know if it's just a subconscious thing because I know about this thing with my dad, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's always been something that's kind of grasped me. Yeah, and I think there's something more over the years. I don't know, but it's weird, man. It's weird.
What do you think your reaction would be if you were walking down there one day and you saw what your dad described?
I don't know, man. Like I experienced, like, let me know when you want me to go on to this bit, but I experienced some paranormal stuff a few years ago, and I think I'd be reactive. I feel like I've evolved with experience paranormal. I think it's like anything. It's like when you're like, I don't know, say you were living in the fucking rainforest, right? And you were a fucking scientist, right? And you saw a spider and you didn't like spiders and it was massive. You shit yourself, right? But then so the next day you're back in the same area and you see a spider, you'd still be freaked out. But I think every day it gets easier and you understand it, you know? So like, oh yeah, I kind of get that now. Kind of I'm okay with that because I'm kind of lubricating up to the idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's what I
totally see
mean.
what you mean, man. I mean, I'm 40 odd episodes deep into this podcast, and I already feel like that this I'm not as scared as I once was, you know. I've
Yeah.
had plenty of things happen to my life. But yeah, when people tell me these stories now, I'm like, ah, cool. It's just another story, you know. But
Yeah, yeah,
man,
yeah.
if something happened in real life, I think I'd react in a very different way if I saw something at the end of my fucking bed. Yeah.
Keep sleeping the nightlight on, like, yeah, for real, man,
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah, like you said, man, you do. I think you do slowly become desensitized to things, and but yeah, yeah, cool. So, man, yeah, on this show, we're all about letting guests talk about their paranormal stories. in their very own words. So please do take us back. What was your very first encounter that happened?
So I had a few things, small things. Obviously, I live in Chester now. Chester is one of the most, I think it's the most haunted city in England. Um, Obviously, we were a Roman city. We were built by the Romans. Um, there's a lot of ghost stories in Chester. A hell of a lot. We've got an old cathedral with a coffin in the wall. Like there's loads of stuff, right? And I always remember that when I was at university, me and my mates went out kind of like on an unofficial ghost hunt, right? And we went underneath the old bridge by Bluecoats. And basically, Bluecoats used to be a hospital, but the bridge attached to it, as far as we're aware, was used to be the hanging bridge where they used to hang a lot of people. And I remember we were stood under that bridge, and all of a sudden, I felt so sick beyond belief, and my head was pounding. And we carried on kind of walking back, like walking through Chester. My mate was like, I feel really fucking ill. I was like, mate, funny you say that, and me. So we kind of feel that maybe there was some bad energy. So that was kind of like another thing that made me think, fucking hell, like this is weird, like things like this. But as I carried on to live in Chester, I didn't experience much more after that. So I kind of figured, I think I did the typical, oh yeah, maybe I've just kind of overthinking it. Maybe it's nothing. Fast forward to a few years on, me and an ex girlfriend years and years ago did a ghost night at a place called Newsham Hall, and it is an abandoned mental asylum. It started off as an orphanage. It was built in the 1800s, and it was used a lot of the orphans for the children of the people that were working on the Titanic. Started off as an orphanage, then it turned into a hospital, and then it was a mental hospital, and it closed down in the 90s. So it's just an abandoned place. Anyway, ended up doing this kind of like haunted night there. So you arrive at 8 o'clock, you have psychic mediums, you're split into groups of 3 or 4, and you stay till like 5 in the morning. So I don't know if I was trying to be big tough man, but I was like, no, not believing it this time, not believing it this time. And a few things happened, like some lights kind of flickered and some toys went off, like the toys they have and the stuff like that.
Cat balls.
Yeah, cat balls and stuff. And I was like, nah, not having it this time. I'm gonna be better than this. Anyway, the thing that really, the night just went from fucking like, I don't know, unpredictable to fuck, this is real. So I was in my group, and there was this thing called the naughty cupboards, and we used to put the little naughty boys in there. They're like, oh, do you want to go into one of these? I said, yeah, I'll go in there. I'll go in there. It's fine. I think you kind of hope something happens, but at the same time, I was like, nah, nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah, dude, fuck
I
that.
went, exactly, dude. I to this day I look back like, you idiot. Went in, and they gave us one of the electromagnetic reading devices. The ones that are red for no, green. So yes, I didn't hold it. The person I was with held it, and we're stood in this cupboard, and I'm like, is anyone there? Anyone want to come forward? There was only us. There was no one else there. Nothing happened. I thought, oh, this is shit. So I'm stood here. The person I'm with stood like, don't know, like half a meter away from me. Showed me the device, and it just goes from red to green. It's going crazy. And now this hospital has got no electricity. It's abandoned. They had to get council permission for this one night. They do quite a few now, but this was when it first started. And then, I kid you not, mate, I felt like I'd held onto an electric fence. I had the biggest electric shock through my body. And I was like, whoa, loose wiring, what the fuck? I come flying out the door. And this psychic medium lady like grabs me and she goes, you okay? Like, nah, some loose wiring in there. She was like, there's no electricity through the building. So she shines a torch in there and there's no wires. And she goes, you know what's happened to you? I was like, what? She goes, little boys just walk through you. And I was like, oh. She was like, yeah. She goes, that's a really normal thing. So that freaked me out. I was like, okay, that was weird. Okay, maybe that's something. Okay. Anyway, so we move on to the next bit. And the next bit, we were down in the cremation room where they used to burn the bodies. And apparently somebody was murdered down there, like in the early 1900s or something. And we're sat with this other psychic medium, and he's goading this spirit. He's like proper shouting at it. And I'm thinking, this guy is fucking losing the plot. And I kid you not, we heard a voice just come through the air. Now, I can't tell you what that voice said because it was so like, you're not switched on to what you're not expecting. Do you know what I mean? But we all heard this voice, and it wasn't from a speaker. As you know, as a musician, we know where a speaker is. We know if something's in an audio format or a recording or something like that. Dude, this was the weirdest sound I've ever heard. It was like it carried on the wind and there was no wind. And it was almost like I'm here or something like that. And everyone went, whoa, what the fuck was that? And it was like, okay, this place is active. Right, this place is really fucking active. So like, I'm down for this now. So we carry on, do a Ouija board in this other group. And before we do the Ouija board, we're rolling balls down the corridor. I have a go. This ball comes back to me. There's nobody there. So I roll it again. Comes back again. I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. But at the same time, I'm shitting myself. So anyway, that was amazing. We sit down to the Ouija board. And I'm like, I'm not touching it. I'll just watch. Because I know that shit you don't fuck with. So they open it up. And next thing I know, start spelling out my name. And the lady doing it says, Phil, you've got an admirer here. I'm not even on the thing. She went, no, you've got a note. There's a nurse taking a bit of a liking to you. And I was like, fuck off, don't wind me up. And she's like, no, you're fine, but yeah. And they tried asking other questions, but then it kept coming towards me. It wasn't spelling anything, but it was just coming towards me. And she's like, yeah, you like Phil, don't you? Yes. I was like, no, this isn't cool, man. Like, what is
I
it
don't blame
about?
her, to be fair.
Oh, bro, I was just like, what is going on? And the thing that made it more real is because it wasn't like the same person. There were different groups being led at different times. So it wasn't like a case of it's a one person going, I'm going to pick on him all night. It was different groups who had no, like, it was like, all right, your turn with this one now, your turn with that group now. So that started happening. So for the rest of the night, a few more things like that. I didn't really like going anywhere on my own. Anyway, the night ended. It was getting light outside. It was like 5 a.m., whatever, having a cup of tea, cup of coffee. Everyone's having a laugh, saying goodbye. They're like, oh, thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. You know, it was a successful night, whatever. So I start to leave. Everyone's leaving. As I leave, get a hand on the shoulder. Phil, do you mind just holding back for a minute? I was like, oh, I'm knackered. I was like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, oh, someone's taken like a liking to you here, and we're worried that you might take her home. He's like, so they had to do a prayer for me, man. They had to do a prayer over me and protect me, Archangel Raphael or whatever. And then they had to take my address and send me sage and then send me their spirit guides. I didn't feel alone for about 3 months. Like, so that was another experience for me where it was weird. So basically, I pulled a ghost, mate. Basically, I pulled a ghost. You know, so that was it was an experience, and if you look at Newsham Hall Park Hospital on Google, there's a picture, not my group, but a group that I've had a picture at the end, and there's a ghostly girl stood, and I'm like, fucking hell, I'm glad I never took you home for real. Like, it's terrible.
Holy fuck, man. I mean, chatting to a few people on here that are, way deeper into the paranormal stuff than I am, they've said the importance of these protection spells and stuff, because, yeah, life can seriously get messed up if you mess up, if you're messing with the wrong spirits and stuff. But yeah, damn, dude. I mean, I've done a few of those investigation nights myself, and I've always been pretty underwhelmed. So you're very lucky to experience this absolutely mental
Oh,
shit that you've had. Yeah, I said a few minutes ago that I've become a little desensitized to hearing these stories lately, but hearing yours today, man, I'm absolutely blown away. Like
mate,
you,
go on.
like you mentioned previously, you're very sensitive to energies and stuff, and that is very evident. Have you ever thought about exploring that side deeper, or is ignorance bliss?
I think more lately I have because I had something really positive. Now, like just jumping onto this, like I'm just looking at the time, but my when my nan passed away, one day I was sat in the kitchen and I got a scent of her perfume out of nowhere, and I went all cold. And I was like, "There's definitely something. I've definitely got an energy. I've definitely got something." And I've got a friend called Mel who is a medium, and she's confirmed that I've kind of got this thing. But I think if you're creative, you pretty much have it. Like you'll have it, but maybe you're just not tapped into it yet. Do you know what I mean? Like I think I could tap into it more, but I'm kind of scared to. But I think I've been enjoying it lately because, as you know, I mentioned my dad passed away in December, and he is here. He is here. And the reason I know, we've got these candles, right? Let's see if I can take you to, right? We've got these candles, right? And they're floating candles. We had them for Christmas, right? They're still up. So when my dad died, I was really upset. And I was like, just give me a sign, Dad. Now, these candles can only be turned on with the remote control. You have to be dead close. And the two in the middle haven't got batteries in now because they broke. So we just took the batteries out. We took the batteries out of all of them. And that the broken one in the middle lit up on its own. And I was like, oh, it's probably Dad. I said, if it's you, Dad, do it again. The one behind it straight after. And then mate, every time over the lot, like New Year's Eve, I was in tears because obviously striking midnight, realized my dad's not here anymore. I was in tears. Stacey was cuddling me, like I was absolutely tears, mate. The candle lit on its own. Whenever I talk or think about my dad, that candle lights up every time. So there's definitely something. There's definitely something, and I think experiencing that has maybe want to maybe look into it a bit more. Maybe try and connect with my dad somehow. But dude, whenever I talk about my dad, pretty much, I'm surprised it hasn't gone off now. It lights up, mate. And that's proof that there is stuff out there. To the point it was happening so much the one night. Stacey went, Peter, can you stop now? I'm getting scared. Because it was freaky, man. Like, but dude, there is life after death. There's a spirit world. We are not just a brain. There's so much more, mate. I definitely want us to look into it more. 100%.
Dude, I got goosebumps all over my body. You telling that story about your dad.
Oh, dude, it's amazing. I know he's here. And I know, like, I have his hat by my front door. And I think that has energy on it as well. Because he always wore this cowboy hat all the time. Got it there. Got his walking stick. But like whenever it lights up, my whole body just goes numb and tingly. And I think that's the difference when you're doing these kind of ghost hunts and you go cold. It's a different kind of energy to a family member. A family member is quite pins and needly, numb, but kind of protected. But when we do these things and we go out ghost hunting, we just go cold. I think it just shows a non-connected kind of spirit. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, dude. For me, the candles, that's why they're still up. It's like my way of talking to dad, and it goes on, and it happens all the time. I was on the phone, I was away recording, and I rang Stacey, and we were talking about my dad, and she was like, "We'll drive home safe." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I will." And she went, "Oh," and then the candle came on, like talking about my dad again. Like, yeah, dude, it's fucking wild. It's wild. I kind of gabbed on there. Sorry about that, mate. But yeah, I'm quite passionate about that bit. It's
That's amazing, man. And I'm so happy for you that, it still feels like your dad is around, even though he passed recently. That must be such an amazing feeling. Oh, dude, my body is still, the hairs are all standing up. I haven't ever felt like that since doing this podcast. I get the tingles and stuff, but it normally goes after a few seconds and still do. You won't be able to see it, but every hair on my body is standing up right now. That
Mate, it's it's
that's
it's nice. It's
that's a
nice.
that's a very personal thing, man. So thank you for sharing that. By the sounds of it, you've got so many more stories to tell. So I'd love to get you back on for a round two in the very near
Dude,
future if you're up for that.
100%, man. 100%.
So to finish it off today, I got a question for you. So if you were to become a ghost yourself, on that note, what would be the first thing that you did?
Fast become a ghost. Do you know what, man? I think I could give two answers here. I could be like really immature and I'd be like a giant, I don't know, going and like doing mischievous things or traveling all over the world for free. But I don't think I'd leave my daughter's side. And I think you could probably be the same. I think if you'd asked me that 7 years ago, I'd be like, oh mate, I'd be in people's showers having a laugh. Do you know what I mean? But I don't think I'd leave my daughter's side, mate. That's the truthful thing. Yeah.
Mate, this has been such a yeah, you're such a humble guy, and this has been such a lovely experience chatting to you properly, dude.
Mate, I
Um,
appreciate it massively.
Thank you so much for your time, man, and 100% I'm going to get you on in the next month or two, and we'll go for round two.
Jamie, bro, I am down. But thank you so much for having me, mate. And like, it's just cool to come on and just talk about this cool stuff. And there's people listening, and hopefully we can connect with some of those people and if they experience anything similar or whatever. But yeah, blessed to be on with you, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Just remind people if they want to come find you, listen to your music, where can they find you?
At the Pip Marsh. At the
There we
Pip
have
Marsh.
it.
Check us out. It's all covers at the moment, but yeah, the new stuff is coming soon.
And let me assure you, you will not regret it. He has an amazing voice.
Bless you, brother. Likewise, man. Likewise, brother.
All right, man. Well, I'll catch you very soon, dude.
Lots of love, man. Thanks again.
Big love, dude. See ya.
Yeah, bye bye bye.